Now joining us, AccuWeather lead hurricane forecaster Alex DaSilva. And Alex, of course, you're a part of AccuWeather, one of our partners here at ABC 11. And of course, you and your colleagues have been forecasting vigorously for hurricane season. What do you and your colleagues expect for this upcoming season?
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be all systems go this year for a very active hurricane season. We're predicting a supercharged hurricane season with above the average number of named storms, hurricanes, major hurricanes, and United States impacts.
So why are you predicting this supercharged season? What goes into that?
Yeah, there's a couple of big factors that we're watching this season. We've seen this the last couple of years with this rapid intensification. Think Ian from a couple of years ago moved off of Cuba and then rapidly exploded before interacting with Florida as a major hurricane. The other major thing that we're going to be watching this season is this transition from El Nino to La Nina. We're already starting to see that transition occur now. El Nino is when we typically see warmer than average sea surface temperatures right along the equator in the eastern Pacific Ocean. And La Nina is the opposite, when those temperatures are cooler than average. Now, in the Atlantic Basin, typically during a La Nina phase, we typically see more tropical activity because there's less vertical wind shear. Now, the best way I like to describe vertical wind shear is if you think of a stack of pancakes. The stack of pancakes you want to stand nice vertically stacked. You don't want it flopping all over the floor, making a mess. Tropical systems are very, very similar to that stack of pancakes in that they like to, when they strengthen, they like their clouds to climb straight up into the atmosphere. If there's a lot of vertical wind shear, which is a change in wind direction and wind speed as you move up into the atmosphere, that can disrupt that essentially stack of pancakes, knocking it over and enabling the tropical systems to not get as strong. Now, for this hurricane season coming up, we're expecting to go into a La Nina period, which would favor less wind shear across the basin. And so the concern as we go into the heart of the season is that we could see more systems and more systems rapidly intensify due to that warm sea surface temperature.
You make a great point there, because we've talked a lot about sea surface temperatures, and not only the temperature at the top layer of the ocean, but also the depth of that layer and just how warm it is. You combine that with very little wind shear, so you have an ingredient that is less likely to tear apart a tropical storm or an emerging hurricane. So you make a great point as you mentioned all of those things. Are there any factors that could inhibit storm development this season?
I don't see too many. I guess the one thing that I'm watching is if we can really build an area of high pressure over the northeastern United States and kind of Midwestern regions, sometimes you can get what we call wave breaking, where you get dips in the jet stream to come up and over that ridge of high pressure, and they can dive down south into the Atlantic Ocean. So essentially you get dips in the jet stream diving south of Bermuda. And what that can do is that can inhibit, or that can create some wind shear that can disrupt these tropical systems. A couple of years ago, we actually saw a lot of these features. We call them tuts. And a couple of years ago, we didn't see any development during the month of August, which is considered part of the heart of the tropical season. That is basically the only real thing that I can see disrupting this season. Otherwise, it seems like it's all systems go for a very active season.
So people are going to be hearing this saying, okay, it's going to be a bad season. Doesn't necessarily mean it'll be a bad season for North Carolina in particular, because we don't exactly know where these storms are going to go. But as we think ahead, as we prepare, what should we be doing in advance of this hurricane season that begins on June 1st?
I think everyone should be checking their evacuation plans and making preparations just in case a storm moves in your direction. The evacuation zones, make sure you know which evacuation zone you're in and what to do if called to evacuate. Now, these evacuation zones sometimes change from year to year based on new modeling, new flood guidance, things like that. So if you haven't checked your evacuation zone in several years, pre-COVID potentially, it could be different today because we have better technology that allows us to sample the atmosphere and sample what a flood storm surge would do to the coastline. And so we want to make sure that you're in the proper, that you know your proper evacuation zone so that if you're called to evacuate, you can do so.
Final question for you here, Alex. AI is big right now, even in weather forecasting. Is AccuWeather doing anything with AI in regard to short-term or long-range weather forecasting, especially in regard to hurricane season?
AI is rapidly evolving. AI and machine learning, I think, are the future of forecasting, especially when it comes to the tropics. These technologies are able to take into account previous years. We call them analog years that really before AI and machine learning, you could only really do on paper. Go back and look at these previous years and see how they compare to what we're thinking is going to occur this season. And those are what are called analog years. These computers are able to do all that stuff, behind the scenes and save the forecaster time. They're able to look back at previous years, see how the sea surface temperatures compare to what we're thinking this season, all these different atmospheric parameters, and are able to put out different forecasts. So yeah, AccuWeather is using these AI models and these machine learning models to help us forecast for the upcoming season. And I think over the next couple of years, you're going to be hearing a lot of the terms of AI and machine learning when it comes to forecasting, not just for hurricane forecasting, but for severe weather forecasting, for snow forecasting. I think AI and machine learning are going to take a huge leap forward here over the next couple of years when it comes to forecasting.
Alex, I think we'll be hearing a lot more about AI and machine learning, as you mentioned, and I also think we'll be hearing a lot more from you as hurricane season gets started and as it ramps up. Alex DaSilva, AccuWeather's lead hurricane forecaster. Alex, thank you.